We all face hardship, illness, loss, failure, disappointment. But here's something remarkable. Two people can go through the same difficult experience and come out telling completely different stories about it. And those stories, they matter more than you might think. Welcome to The Stories We Tell, an exploration of two powerful paths to finding meaning in adversity, grounded in the psychology of McAdams' narrative identity theory. We don't just live our lives, we narrate them. According to psychologist McAdams, every one of us is constantly constructing an internal, evolving story, one that connects our past, our present, and our imagined future into a unified whole. This is what he calls narrative identity. Think of yourself less as a character in your life and more as its author. Beginning in adolescence, we start actively selecting experiences, weaving them together, and creating a coherent arc that gives us a sense of who we are and where we're going. And here's the empowering part. You are always holding the pen. Now here is where things get really interesting. These internal stories, the narratives we tell about ourselves, are not set in stone. They are fluid. They can be revised, reframed, and rewritten. Research consistently shows that how we choose to edit and frame past adversity is a direct predictor of our current mental health and well-being. The story isn't just a reflection of how you feel, it can actually shape how you feel. That means the narrative you hold about a difficult experience isn't fixed. It's a living document, and you have editorial control. The story of redemption follows a clear arc, from point A, adversity, to point B, growth and recovery. A redemption narrative occurs when a negative event is actively transformed into a positive outcome. Crucially, it's not just that something good happened after something bad, it's that the bad event itself is seen as the cause of the good that followed. Think of someone who describes a painful job loss as the turning point that led them to their true calling, or a health crisis that restructured their priorities and deepened their relationships. The bad became the catalyst for the good. When people frame their adversity through a redemption narrative, the psychological benefits are significant. This narrative pattern focuses on three core outcomes: growth, recovery, and learning. It is highly effective for building resilience, helping people bounce back stronger. It fosters optimism, the belief that challenges can be overcome. And it increases a sense of personal control, the feeling that you are an active agent in your own life, not simply a victim of circumstance. Research by McAdams and colleagues found that people who tell redemptive stories about their struggles tend to report higher levels of mental health, greater well-being, and deeper psychological maturity. Now, what about experiences that simply cannot be transformed into something positive? What do you do when there is no silver lining to find? That brings us to the second path, the story of acceptance. An acceptance narrative occurs when a negative event is integrated into your life story without needing to turn it into a good thing, or fix it, or overcome it. The event is acknowledged, understood, and woven into who you are, even as it remains painful. Imagine a circle with a dark core at its center. Acceptance doesn't remove that core. It expands the circle around it, making room for it within the larger story of your life. If redemption is about transformation, acceptance is about making sense of reality. This narrative is highly effective in a different but equally powerful way. It helps people deal with irreversible events, such as chronic illness, profound loss, or life-altering change that cannot be undone. Acceptance fosters deep wisdom, the kind that comes from sitting with difficulty rather than escaping it. It builds psychological maturity, the capacity to hold complexity and pain without being destroyed by it. Think of it like a scattered puzzle. Before acceptance, the pieces of a hard experience feel chaotic and disconnected. After the work of integration, they form a complete picture, with the difficult piece right at the center where it belongs. Let's put these two paths side by side. Both are valid, both are adaptive, but they serve different psychological functions, and they work best in different situations. The story of redemption focuses on transformation. Its arc is bad becomes good. It's best for challenges that can be overcome, and its outcome is optimism and empowerment. The story of acceptance focuses on integration. Its arc is bad is understood. It's best for chronic or irreversible situations, and its outcome is wisdom and maturity. Neither path is superior. The key is knowing which path fits the experience you're navigating. There's one more important layer to consider. Where you are in the world shapes which story feels most natural. The best story isn't universal. It depends on your cultural environment. Western cultures, particularly in the United States, heavily favor redemption narratives. They align with cultural values of individualism, personal growth, and overcoming obstacles. Studies show that for American participants, redemption is strongly associated with well-being. But Eastern and Nordic cultures, such as Japan and Denmark, often favor acceptance narratives. In cultures that emphasize harmony, interdependence, and a more stoic relationship with suffering, acceptance may be the more adaptive and authentic path. One size does not fit all. Culture is the backdrop against which our stories are written. Now, what happens when a story goes in the wrong direction? There is a third narrative pattern, and it's one to watch out for. McAdams calls it the contamination narrative. This occurs when a story begins in a positive state, things are going well, and then descends into a negative one, and stays there. Good becomes bad, and there is no recovery, no integration, no meaning made. Unlike redemption, which moves upward, or acceptance, which stabilizes, contamination spirals downward. And the research is stark. This pattern is strongly and consistently linked to anxiety, depression, neuroticism, and poor mental health. Redemption or acceptance? The goal isn't to pick one story and commit to it forever. True resilience comes from narrative flexibility, the capacity and the agency to choose the right interpretive path for the situation at hand. Sometimes redemption is exactly what's needed. Sometimes acceptance is the wiser, more authentic response. And sometimes the same experience calls for both at different moments in your life. Like a hand holding a pencil and sketching possibilities around a solid rock, narrative flexibility means you can always redraw the path forward. Here is perhaps the most empowering insight of all. You can actively change your script. If you recognize that your story has taken a contamination turn, spiraling from bad to worse with no way out, you don't have to stay there. You can consciously choose to re-author your experience. You can pick up the eraser, clear away the downward spiral, and then stand at a crossroads. One door leads to redemption, toward transformation and growth. The other leads to acceptance, toward integration and wisdom. Both doors are open, and the choice belongs to you. Let's close with 4 key takeaways, the final edit. 1. You are the active author of your life story, not just a character, the author. 2. Redemption transforms adversity into growth and optimism by turning the bad into the cause of something good. 3. Acceptance integrates adversity into wisdom and maturity by making room for difficulty within a larger, coherent life story. And 4. You have the power to edit the narrative, to move away from stories that harm you and toward stories that help you heal, grow, and flourish. The stories we tell about ourselves are never finished. The next chapter is always yours to write.